What's up, everyone? This is Robert from Scattermind Central. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We haven't had time to record any of the new podcasts for either To Raise a Child or I Can't Believe We're Friends. So I decided to take it upon myself and do a podcast solo. I know what you're thinking. I'm thinking it too. What the fuck? But sometimes life just gets in the way. I know for me personally, we have 4 kids, Nish and I, and life constantly gets in the way. We're constantly moving, going. Like today, Kaylee has a performance for the orchestra, and it is mandatory that she appears. We also have a skate party that Noe and Logan were able to go to that we had to tell them that they can't go to because it's not mandatory. Kaylee's is, etc., etc. And that's just a typical week in our lives. There's always something going on. Somebody's always got to do something or whatever. And it feels like we're being pulled in 50 different directions at any given time. Nish and I both work full time, and then we come home, and then we work more. I mean, I stay at home working, but you get the idea. And sometimes it's just difficult. It's really hard to find time for ourselves, to find time to take care of all the things that we need to take care of. I know I myself am not particularly good at it. I get really overwhelmed, especially whenever things are in flux and changing, and there's this, that, and the other thing that we have to worry about. It becomes insurmountable at a point. And I know Nish and I have had that discussion, and I've had that discussion with Gabriel and Jimmy as well. And Jimmy wanted me to give you guys a special shout out and tell you just to hang with us. And his life is kind of in flux right now too, as is all of ours. We all have things going on, so we haven't been able to really sit down and record anything or put anything together to have some form of coherent podcast, or as coherent as we've ever been. We've mainly spent the time that the 4 of us, well, not the 4 of us, the 3 of us and our families and significant others have had just hanging out. We all met whenever we were kids, and the main thing we would all do is just sit around either in my backyard or in Gabriel's front yard or in Jimmy's house, because his parents were the dumb ones and let us in the house. And we would just hang out. We would talk, we would bullshit. I mean, that's where the term for the original podcast that me and Jimmy were doing came from. Shoot the shit. Because that's what we would do. We would just sit around, we would talk about everything under the sun. Normally, it ended up going back to something nerdy, be it anime or comic books or pro wrestling, and we still do that to this day. And we talk about hip-hop, we talk about music, we do a lot of that. Now it's more reserved for us hanging out, all of us having dinner together as a family. The kids eat together, the adults eat together, we're sitting around watching WWE pay-per-view or a UFC pay-per-view. All of us watched All In together because I felt that was important for me, and I wanted my brothers and my nieces and nephews and all of them to do that with me. I mean, the kids, obviously, they don't pay that much attention, but the adults, I got to expose Jimmy and Gabriel to wrestling that they don't normally get to see, and it's something that we all still, to this day, share together 20 years later after becoming friends. Sometimes we lose sight of that. We all get so wrapped up in our own lives that we forget to check on other people. I know I'm guilty of it. The only time I really talk to Bub, and he's one of my best friends, is whenever we're planning something. They're coming up, or we're going down, or whatever. And that's not a good thing, but at the same time, he and I have a different relationship where it's just like, we know that whenever we see each other, we're going to bullshit and it's going to be exactly like it never left off, even though we hardly ever talk now. But I don't talk to Jimmy and Gabriel all that much either. There may be an occasional, hey, what's up? We're doing this weekend, blah, 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 blah. Outside of that, the majority of the time that we communicate, it's whenever we're all together. We're all having a good time, just laughing, cutting up, talking shit about the kids or whatever the case may be. Everything's become so busy that we don't know which side is up anymore. I personally, I can't speak for the rest of them, but I feel that it's important to have those moments, to have those times where we just decompress. Fuck getting anything done, trying to be productive, or what the fuck ever. Let's just sit around and enjoy each other's company like we used to. I mean, there were 3 of us. Now there's 4 if you count Bub. And then if you count all of our significant others, that's 8. And then if you count all the kids, Jesus, there's what, 7? 7 kids. And then you factor in my sister, her boyfriend, my cousin, her husband, and then their 2 kids. My sister's got a stepkid. So do the math. It just becomes one of those things where, yeah, I like getting things done. Yeah, I like having money, being able to work, and all that stuff, but the drudgery of that beats me down to where there's times that I can't even enjoy those family dinners, those times that we're just sitting around doing nothing. Again, I can't speak for everybody else, but it gets hard sometimes, especially as a parent, as a spouse, as whatever you may be. I don't check on my sister as much as I should. I don't check on my cousin as much as I should. I don't get to see my nieces from my cousin. That's a long, complicated story. If anybody knows me, they know what I mean by that. It becomes forgotten, really. We get so wrapped up in living our lives and the everyday tedium of that we don't take the time to reach out and just be like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Do you need to talk about anything? Any kind of shit like that. I've tried to do it more recently with my sister because we found out that she's pregnant, and I didn't exactly have the reaction that she would have liked, I guess. And it's not saying that I wasn't happy about it. I was. It's just I'm 34 years old, which makes her 23, and mentally, I don't think I was ever going to be prepared for that, but it just sort of came out of left field, which isn't bad, but I didn't react the way that I felt that I should have. So I've been trying to, I guess, make up for that. Just be like, hey, how you doing? I love you. Hope everything's all right. I mean, 9 times out of 10, honestly, it's niche touching base with her, but she loves her just as much as I do, and the same thing with my cousin Vic. I don't touch base with her as much as I should. I know that. And I've felt guilty about it recently, but I don't pay attention to my phone a whole lot, which I'm sure everybody that knows me that's listening to this can attest. I'm kind of hard to get a hold of just because I don't give a shit about my phone. I don't give a shit about what's on social media or whatever. I'm more concerned about the here and the now as opposed to what everybody else is doing, essentially. But I'm trying to make it more of a point to not let life get in the way, to be able to touch base with everybody, at least once a month, once every other week, whatever the situation is, just to say, hey, how you doing? It might not be a long conversation. There's certain people I don't touch base with but once every other month, like Rico and I don't really talk all that much, but whenever we do, it's like, the conversation will just pick right back up, and it's just like, yeah, those are the kind of friends that I have, and I am grateful for that. And I realize that I'm not as responsive as I probably should be, because sometimes I'll get distracted whenever I am having a text conversation with somebody, and I just trail off and not respond until the next day, or sometimes fucking 4 days later. I have done that. I'm guilty of it. I am sorry. But sometimes life gets in the way. I'm busy trying to do the same thing that everybody else is. Trying to make time for myself, for my wife, for my kids, for my friends, family. And it gets taxing after a while. It gets to the point where I've been on the verge of a mental breakdown. And it's been like that consistently for months at a time. Not right at this moment, but just in general. And I know I don't have a lot of the stresses that some other people have. That everything seems to be on the upswing for me. I mean, yes, there are certain things that are going on in my life and I would rather not them be happening to people that I care about. But ultimately, everything's going well for me. Everything's going well for Niche. The kids are doing as good as can be expected. Chris has had a little hiccup here and there, grade-wise, but he's a teenager, and the fact that he's not failing every single class freshman year is amazing to me because that's where I was at this point. But that notwithstanding, it becomes a mental beating when we feel like we have to keep up with everybody. And it's not that I don't want to. I do. I absolutely do. I love the conversations that I have with everybody that I have conversations with, be it family, be it my kids, my wife, my friends, whatever. My favorite thing in the world is to laugh. It always has been. It always will be. You know, it started from a young age watching I Love Lucy and Married with Children and The Simpsons and all that stuff, which I can blame Grandma for. Well, not Married with Children and The Simpsons, but you get what I'm saying. And those moments I wouldn't trade for anything, because whenever life does start getting in the way and I don't want to deal with anything and I don't want to be around anybody, but we have something planned and, oh, we're going to hang out. And of course, it's usually my house just because I'm lazy and I don't want to go anywhere. So I invite everybody to come over here. Then I can kick everybody the fuck out whenever I want to. I'm like, I'm going to bed, leave. I don't know if anybody knows that that's why I do that, but I guess they found out now. What was my point? Oh. Whenever everything gets overwhelming and I don't want to deal with anything, and I end up hanging around my friends, or we have something planned, or whatever, and we just start laughing. There was one particular instance that comes to mind. I don't even remember how it started at this point, but we all just stuck with a phrase. And it started because, I remember why it started. It started because of Kaylee's reaction to whatever we said. And it irritated her, so we all just kept going. For a fucking hour and a half, all of us just kept going with this one single thought, and just laughing, and cutting up, and that was one of the best nights I've had as an adult. Sober, the whole 9 yards. Like, it was just us literally sitting around the kitchen table, making each other laugh. You know, and those moments make you realize that there are things that are more important than just the tedium of everyday life. You know, those moments where we could sit around with our kids and have conversations. They don't even have to be intellectual conversations, just conversations with our kids, conversations with our friends, with our significant others. They go a long way in your mental health, which in turn leads to your physical health. You know, I guess I got it pretty lucky compared to especially some of the people, well, pretty much all the people that I know. You know, everybody else's body's falling apart. They got bad knees, bad backs, whatever the situation is. And it's me knocking on wood, I don't really have that. And I think we all have some sort of mental issues. I don't mean like we're all fucking crazy. We are crazy, but not in the clinical sense. You know, we just all have our hang-ups and our issues to deal with, and those moments where we're just like, fuck all of this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with anybody. But then we'll spend 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. Everybody decompresses. Everybody's quiet for a little bit. And then something will be said or something will happen. And it'll just spark, I guess, the creativity or the humor in everybody. And we'll just start going on a tangent. It's another reason the podcast started in the first place. Because at the time, it was just Jimmy and I hanging out with our significant others. Actually, I don't know. I don't remember who all was there. I know it was me, Jimmy, and Niche for sure, because Jimmy was hanging out with us a lot at that point. But we just sit around and just talk shit and make each other laugh. You know, just who can make who laugh the hardest. Who can make who choke on something, no homo, that was just a joke or something. And since that time, I've had another kid. Jimmy's had another kid. We've both gotten married. Gabriel's come back more into the fold. He got married. He's now the stepfather to my kids. Well, 3 of them. And one of my best friends is my ex-wife. And then we have Bub and Crystal and everything that they constantly have going on. And then there's my sister and my cousin and their families. You know, everybody's constantly got stuff going on. Everybody's constantly going and moving. And then my other cousins are in college, you know, so we never really get to see them. So whenever the entire family gets together, it's a big deal to me now. And I didn't used to be like that. You know, I guess with everything getting in the way so often, it made me realize that the times like that are important to me now. And without getting too morbid or morose, we don't know how long any of us have left on this planet, or how long anybody that we love has left on this planet. So whenever there's an opportunity for me to hang out with my family, especially if we're all going to be together, because it happens so seldomly now, I try to not come up with excuses anymore. And I did. Admittedly, I did before, but that was mainly because I didn't like myself. I didn't like the situation that I was in life in general. Not blaming it on anybody, just mainly myself and all the shit that I had in my head. And now I've gotten to a point where I guess I feel like an adult. As retarded as that is to say at 34, I actually feel like an adult. I feel like I have goals and I have wants and I have things that I want to attain, and I'm starting to put timelines on it. Like, I want to do this by this age. I'm going to do this by whatever. And I have goals for the kids. I try not to push them on them too much because I don't want them to deal with daddy trying to live vicariously through them or some bullshit like that. But ultimately, I'm just trying to find time. I'm trying to not let everything get in the way. I'm trying to be a better person every single day. Be a better friend, father, husband, brother, cousin, whatever. Every single day. And it's not exactly easy. Well, it's never fucking easy, to be completely honest. There's always something going on. There's always something happening, giving us excuses and everything like that. Instead of looking for reasons to do stuff, we look for excuses to not do them, which is understandable. I mean, you do have that right to take that time and be like, look, I'm not feeling it. I'm going to bail on whatever plans we had or whatever the situation may be. And I've done that. Everybody knows I've done that. Just because I don't feel it. Just because something in my gut or something in my head is telling me, hey, let's take a break. And I do. And I think everybody kind of loses sight of that. I know Nish and I have had conversations ad nauseum about taking care of ourselves. I was like, no matter what, we have each other. She's gone through a lot of shit in her life. I've gone through a lot of shit in my life. And now that everything's starting to get better, we have each other. And she did pull me out of a lot of dark shit and vice versa at the beginning of our relationship. But now everything's starting to become copacetic and everything's starting to just kind of fall into place and go the way that we need it to go. And we still have each other, but we never really fixed ourselves in that process. We gave each other the support that we needed. To just be like, look, I'm here for you. If you need to talk, and both of us have a problem with talking and taking care of ourselves. And we both have a big issue with taking time for ourselves. And whenever everything gets in the way, that becomes even more of a burden to try to deal with. When you're trying to manage a career with the kids, with everything they got going on, and then we got this coming up, and then, the family's getting together this day, and then we got a pay-per-view this day, and then blah, 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 whatever the fuck. And then you start looking around like, I need to get away from all this. But you don't want to because everything else has gotten in the way this whole time, and you feel like that would be taking more time away. And then you're just stuck in the middle and your mind's slowly deteriorating and you start falling back into old habits to where you start questioning everything about your life. You start questioning everything about yourself, your worth, whether or not you even matter. And that's not a good place to be. I've been guilty of it. I know my wife's been guilty of it. We just had this conversation this past weekend, as a matter of fact, where she knows that she has to start taking care of herself now. And Nish, I love you. I'm not trying to put all your shit out there. I'm just using it as an example. Like, she wants to get better. I want her to get better. She's constantly afraid that she's going to lose me if she keeps doing the things that she's doing. And it's not anything detrimental. It's not anything bad to our relationship. It's just she's stuck in her own head a lot of times and she doesn't talk about it. And I know a lot of us probably feel that we don't have anybody to talk to, which is bullshit, because I've told every single person that I've ever been close to that if they need anything, they can call me. Well, usually I say, hey, bro, if you need anything, hit me up. Just said that to Jimmy the other day, as a matter of fact. Said it to Gabriel a million times. Said it to Bub. Said it to everybody. I've said it to everybody. Because it is important to me for everybody to know that I do care. I know I'm an asshole. I know I talk a lot of shit. I know I've made everybody feel like an asshole at some point in time or another. Every single person that I know. I am well aware of that. That doesn't change the fact that I love them. I mean, I always joke with Nish that I wouldn't be so ornery and mean to everybody if I didn't care. And I guess that's true. But then again, I'm just a cunt in real life too, so take that how you want it. But I think as a people, we all need to spend more time on ourselves and on our relationships and not let life get in the way. I've watched so many relationships fall to shit because they spend their time with other people or talking to somebody else whenever the person you should be talking to the most is usually laying in bed right next to you every single day. And I know I've been guilty of that at times, but ultimately we have to take time for ourselves. We have to take time for each other because we have all made our families, whether it's blood or otherwise. I'm lucky enough to where the family that I built also includes family that I'm related to, but a lot of people don't have that. And as a whole, the people that I consider my family the most, I'm not blood related to. It's Bubba, it's Jimmy, it's Gabriel. It's our family that we've built. Yes, my cousins are included in that. Yes, my sister's included in that. All their significant others are included in that. Aunts, uncles, but on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, the people that I see the most are the people that I chose to be around, not that I didn't have a choice in being around. Basically, what it all boils down to is we just need to not let life get in the way. We need to continue doing the things that we love to do. And what I love to do is sit around and laugh. What I love to do, in case this podcast isn't enough of a hint, I love talking. I've always loved talking. I love the art of conversation. And I've found excuses multiple times in my life to not do this. Exactly what I'm doing right now, talking into a microphone, because I don't know my voice. At certain times in my life, I feel like I haven't had a voice, or I didn't know what it sounded like, if that makes sense. And I don't mean in a physical sense. I've heard my voice recorded God knows how many times, but actually knowing my voice and being comfortable with my voice. Niche always says I have a good voice for it. I think she's biased, but that's my opinion. We need to stop making excuses for what we want to do, but can't, quote unquote. We need to stop getting in our own way. We need to stop letting life get in the way. If there's something you're passionate about, make time for it. And that's not always easy, and that's not always going to happen either, because Jimmy's very passionate about podcasting, but the way everything's going right now, he's got other things to worry about. He's moving, new jobs, blah, 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 blah. Kids, always with the fucking kids. So there's not always time. But whenever you have those few moments and you realize, I got time right now, go for it. Don't wait for somebody to tell you what to do. Take it upon yourself to do what you want to do. I've always wanted to podcast. I've always wanted to be on the radio. I've always wanted to be a rock star. I've always wanted to be this. I always wanted to be that. And I always found excuses for not doing those things. Now, as I look back on my life, I've done pretty much everything that I've ever wanted to do. And I'm lucky in that aspect. Because I've had friends and family that have supported me every single step of the way. I want to write a fucking book. I haven't really gotten around to that one, but I've started it. Whenever I've had downtime, I just start writing. I got downtime today, so I'm recording a podcast. Whenever I've told my wife, hey, I want to record a hip-hop album, there's no pushback. There's no, well, why? It's okay, do it. That's one of the biggest things I've learned from my wife. Is that, okay, why don't you? And then you start coming up with excuses. You start letting life get in the way. You start letting your own mind get in the way. You start second-guessing yourself, all that shit. Which is funny that I learned it from Niche, and now I'm having to relay that same information to her at different times. It's okay that life gets in the way sometimes. It really is. We just can't let it get in the way all the time. We have to choose to be better every single day. We have to choose to do the things that we want to do. In the same token, we choose to not do the things that we want to do. So if you want to be a photographer, go out and start taking pictures. If you want to do a podcast, buy a microphone, start talking. If you want to write a book, take the time. All you need is a fucking WordPad or Microsoft Word and a keyboard. That's all you need. If you need somebody to tell you, hey, get started, do it now. I'm doing it right now. Get fucking started. Do it. Whatever you want to do, do it. I mean, unless you're going to like rape kids or something, then you can go fuck off. You should be shot in the fucking head. But that's another rant for another time. All of us need to stop letting life get in the way. We all need to do the things that we want to do. We all need to feel fulfilled in life. And to feel like we have a creative outlet and that we can do, say, and accomplish anything we want to do. Now, that might be the millennial fucking bullshit coming out of me. Where it's like, oh, yeah, I can be an astronaut if I want to. But with technology the way it is, with the internet and society being the way it is, there's no reason that you can't do a podcast. There's no reason that you can't record an album. There's no reason you can't put out a book. There's no reason you can't become a photographer or a model or whatever the situation may be. you have access to an infinite source of information that you can also put your information on. And I'm not just saying that because of the internet. I'm saying that because we all have limitless potential. We can go and do as much or as little as we want to. So instead of letting life get in the way, do it. Find excuses to do something new. Find excuses to make what you want to make happen. Don't just look for the easy way out. Test yourself. Push yourself. Make yourself get better. I know I've ranted a lot today, and I apologize for that. You know what? No, I don't. I don't apologize for that. I wanted to rant. I wanted to talk. Now, whether or not anybody listens, that's another fucking question. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully we can get back on a regular recording schedule at some point with me, Jimmy. Oh, excuse me. God, why did I say that? With Jimmy, Gabriel, Niche, and I. Or with Niche and I for our podcast. But if not, you're going to be hearing a lot more of these editorial style shits. Maybe. No, fuck that. If there's nothing to do, I'm going to record. And if you like what you hear, or if you're still listening at this point, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at That Infernal NPC. ThatInfernal NPC at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And leave me any kind of feedback. If you want to tell me to shut the fuck up, tell me to shut the fuck up. I'm totally cool with that. I'm not going to listen, but you can tell me to do that. You can tell me to fuck off. I do that anyway, so that's not really going to do anything. But mainly what I want to do is I want to push everybody. I want everybody to step out of their comfort zone and do something that they've been wanting to do, but we're too afraid to do it. I want everybody to be good to yourselves and to each other. That sounded really Jerry Springer-y. Oh well. I mean it. Just be good to yourselves, be good to each other. And I hope everybody has a great day.